Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Please remember to like and subscribe. Today, we're discussing off-screen screaming tantrums, covert ultimatums, and a contract threat so serious that it compelled Amy Roloff to do the one thing she vowed never to do again. This is the first ever in-depth account of how Amy was allegedly pressured by TLC to film with Karen Chandler, which nearly caused her to leave the show that made her famous. This is not merely a summary. We have the inside scoop in this high-stakes conspiracy thriller. Welcome back to your go-to resource for the backstories of stories is LPBW Update. What you're about to hear is the result of extensive on-screen behavior analysis, insider rumors, and unique theories from those close to the production. We want to know the truth, not just the official version. This is the main bombshell. Amy Roloff is accused of putting her foot down after a heated, unnecessary dispute. She made it clear to producers that she would leave Little People, Big World before ever doing a one-on-one. A private moment with Karen Chandler once more. A breach of contract lawsuit that might have cost Amy millions of dollars was apparently the network's trump hand in the face of a narrative crisis. As viewers, we were forced to watch a stressful, uncomfortable, and mentally taxing reunion scene without any of the actual background until today. I need you to take action before we get too far into Amy and the network's covert conflict. The ruling class does not want this type of analysis to be published. The best strategy for retaliation and to show your support for our channel, hit the like button until it turns blue. Additionally, ring your notification bell and subscribe to LPBW Update if you haven't already. You won't want to miss any of the details of this story as it develops. Okay, let's get started. We need to go back and establish the foundation in order to comprehend the explosion. This fight is not new. This Cold War, which lasted for decades, has now heated up. The conflict between Amy and Karen may appear to the untrained eye to be minor. Envy, but this goes far deeper for Amy. The narrative is based on what she has called the ultimate betrayal. Remembering the timeline is important. Karen Chandler was more than simply a new acquaintance of Matt's. She has worked there for a long time. She oversaw Roloff Farms as manager for 10 years. According to Amy's own words in her book A Little Me, she was active in their family, company, and lives. Amy has made it clear, if not explicitly, that she thinks an unacceptable. When Karen and Matt were still married, their relationship started. She described seeing pictures, messages, and other things that validated her greatest fears in her book. For the sake of Amy's mind, it doesn't matter if it was a physical or merely emotional affair at that point. The trust was completely destroyed. For Amy, Karen is more than just the new lover of her ex-husband. Karen represents the dissolution of her marriage in her mind. The woman who surreptitiously remained in the background as her world was disintegrating. Every encounter and artificial grin serves as a reminder of that profound wound. Let's move on quickly. The divorce has been finalized. TLC producers are clapping their hands together after Matt and Karen were officially declared a couple. Why? Since this is the gold standard of reality TV, the drama is inherent. The main tension of the program changes from whether Matt and Amy's marriage will last to how Matt, Amy, Karen, and eventually Chris will get along in this broken world. Amy played the game for years. She captured moments at family gatherings. There was always a line, but she was kind, if not aloof. She didn't want to be alone herself with Karen. Other family members, the children, the grandchildren, Matt, or Chris always acted as a barrier between the interactions. The arrangement was stable but brittle. Then, however, things began to shift. The new battlefield was the farm, which was the center of the Roloff empire. An important turning point was Amy's choice to sell Matt her portion of the farm. She was releasing the final fragment of the life she created, and who, in Amy's opinion, benefited from her absence while standing right next to Matt, influencing decisions. Karen Chandler. The stress was visible on film. Amy believed that Karen's intrusion into the family business was excessive. Do you recall when Amy tells Matt straight out that she doesn't want to deal with his girlfriend about this? Although the line appeared obvious, it was supposedly frequently breached behind the scenes. This is the background. This is the keg of powder. 10 years of forced civility, apparent betrayal, and witnessing the woman she holds responsible for her divorce take over her life, her house, and her legacy. Our sources further claim that all of this resulted in an off-screen altercation that was irreversible. What then took place? What was the last straw that caused Amy Roloff to raise her hand and refuse further? The effects of this were felt throughout the production, even if the cameras weren't rolling. As stated, according to rumors from people close to the set, a death by 1,000 cuts that ended in a furious off-screen argument rather than a single incident served as the breaking point. Regarding the nature of this argument, there are two main explanations that both lead to the same conclusion. The grandmother dispute, or Theory A. The grandchildren are at the center of the first scenario, which many fans think is the most likely. Being a grandmother means the world to Amy. It's her legacy, her delight, and her new identity. However, Karen, because Cha-Cha has also assumed the role of a grandmother. For years, this has been a source of subtly tense scenes on screen. According to the report, an incident happened as a family get-together was being prepared for shooting. It could have been a remark made by Karen regarding one of the children, a choice made regarding a birthday celebration, or an instance in which Karen allegedly went beyond what Amy believed to be her authority as the biological grandmother. Picture the scene. While the crew prepares the lighting, the cameras are not in operation. And apparently innocent. The discussion begins. Maybe Karen says, "Oh, I was thinking of taking Jackson to do this." Or perhaps Leia needs this kind of discipline. It may appear innocuous to others. However, this might have been seen by Amy as a direct threat to her role, her authority, and her relationship with her own family after years of pent-up bitterness. According to the source, Amy lost it. According to reports, she made it very apparent to Karen that she was the grandmother and that Karen needed to recall where she was. Voices were raised, and the conversation heated up. Allegedly, Matt intervened to protect Karen, which merely served to fuel the flames. Amy wouldn't have simply been disrespected in this situation. She would have felt that the very woman she blames for severing her family in the first place was intruding on her most sacred role as a grandmother. This would have been the biggest transgression for Amy. There was a boundary that was irrevocably crossed. Theory B. The conflict over legacy. According to the second idea, which originates from a different production whisper, the dispute concerned Amy's legacy and the property. Amy feels more and more removed from the farm's past as Matt keeps making plans for the future of the company and transforming the land into his ideal home where Amy used to be. According to this notion, Karen may have made an innocent remark regarding the new farm or their intentions for it in the future. For example, "We're thrilled to make our own memories here and spend our first Christmas in the new home." Once more, the words themselves appear innocuous, but the underlying meaning is crucial. Such a remark to Amy would be equivalent to saying, "Your 3 years here are irrelevant. Your memories are being paved over. This is ours now." According to the insider, Amy confronted Karen and Matt, accusing them of attempting to remove her from the story both literally and figuratively. Something along the lines of, "You may have the property, but you will not take my history." Whichever theory, the grandma dispute or the legacy confrontation, is more accurate, the result was the same. A heated off-screen argument that was so final and toxic that it completely altered the rules of engagement. Amy Roloff allegedly pushed herself to the limit, went to the producers, and dropped the ultimatum after this alleged blow-up. Our sources paint a clear picture of Amy, a professional who has been doing this for more than 20 years, calling an emergency meeting with the showrunner and key producers, saying, "Paulid, I'm done." After she did what is regarded as a cardinal sin in the world of reality television. She refused to film. "I will never again be able to work with Karen Chandler on a movie. Definitely not one-on-one. And definitely not in a group. I can be filmed with my children. Chris and I can be filmed together. You can record me going about my life, but my scenes and her scenes will be separate." End of story. The producers, of course, would have been in a panic. They likely tried to reason with her. "Amy, think of the show. Amy, the fans want to see the whole family. Amy, how can we tell the story without you two interacting?" But Amy, feeling cornered and disrespected for the last time, allegedly stood her ground. And then she delivered the final blow. According to a source with knowledge of the meeting, she said, "If you try to, I will quit if you force me to. I have a stable income. Chris is my life partner. This show is no longer necessary for me. I'll take a stroll. This was a war declaration. As the show's matriarch and a fan favorite, Amy was using her position to challenge TLC's bluff. For a brief time, it appeared as though Amy had won. She was basically saying, you can have a show with Matt and Karen, or you can have a show with me, but you can't have us both in the same room anymore. Chaos erupted in production. They were rearranging schedules. The entire storyline of the next season was at stake. It was a real crisis for the producers. However, they did not have the last word. At TLC and its parent company, Discovery, the issue became more serious as it moved up the corporate ladder. The network lawyers then became involved. This is a harsh reality TV aspect that is frequently overlooked. These are not merely relatives whose lives are being chronicled. They work for an enormous media company, and they have contracts that are unbreakable. The network executives did not react emotionally when Amy's ultimatum reached them. It was just business. They recognized an asset worth millions of dollars. One of its key employees has refused to carry out her duties, posing a threat to the Little People Big World company. What are their responsibilities? If you read a typical reality TV contract, you'll notice that it frequently contains provisions pertaining to collaboration with the production. This can be an ambiguous yet effective tool. It indicates the talent have to be open to filming with individuals and in settings that the producers think are essential to the plot. It is an outright violation to refuse to do so. A violation of contract has occurred. According to our sources, a letter written by TLC's legal department was delivered to Amy's representatives. It was a clear and nasty message. The contents were described by one insider. It was a notice to cure or quit, but with legal teeth. In essence, it stated that Amy had materially violated her talent agreement. It informed her of the monetary consequences of breaching the agreement, which might include losing her season's remaining pay in addition to facing a lawsuit for damages. What are damages? The network can contend that her unwillingness to film cost them millions of dollars in missed advertising revenue, production expenses, and potential franchise harm. To put it briefly, there was a risk of financial collapse. This is reality TV's dark secret. The truth is whatever the network requires, and they will exert tremendous financial and legal pressure to obtain it. Amy Roloff was now facing a corporate shotgun, even though she believed she was defending her own limits and mental health. She was stuck. Her emotional health, her personal commitment, and her steadfast unwillingness to accept Karen's place in her life by sharing screen time were on one side. The legal nightmare that awaited her on the other side would endanger the financial stability she had so diligently cultivated. She was being made to decide between her livelihood and her values, and the network was fully aware of the choice she would need to make. TLC had triumphed because they had called her bluff. The command was given. Amy and Karen would film a scene. It was to be set up by the production team. The outcome was one of the show's most excruciatingly uncomfortable and dramatic scenes ever. Now that we have this fascinating backstory, let's take another look at the scene that TLC showed us. It was presented as a progressive and mature moment. However, we can now see it for what it purportedly was: a scene shot under pressure and a hostage video. Now let's dissect the forensic data. The setup comes first. Take note of how phony the entire idea is. Amy and Karen get together on a patio for a drink. Have these two women ever voluntarily done this in the past 5 years? The arrangement is blatantly producer-driven. This interaction isn't organic. It is a manufactured piece intended to satisfy a contractual requirement. The body language comes in second. Here's where the loudest scream is the truth. Take a look at Amy. She is leaning away from Karen. She has her hands clutched in her lap or her arms crossed. A traditional defense stance. She's putting up a physical wall. Nothing is warm. She has stiff shoulders that extend to her ears. This is the stance of someone who finds it extremely difficult to tolerate a circumstance without taking part in it. Take a look at Karen now. Though it's a nervous energy, she's trying. The incessant restlessness, the excessively brilliant, fragile grin that stops short of her eyes. She's on stage. Amy doesn't want to be there, and she knows it. She plays the role of the peacemaker in this relationship, attempting to make things work even though she is probably just as uncomfortable. She must fulfill this job in order to keep her place on the show and in the family. The third thing is the lack of eye contact. Rewatch it. Amy hardly ever looks Karen in the eyes for an extended period of time. She is continuously looking down at the table, far away, somewhere other than at the person seated opposite her. This is a strong subliminal warning indication of mistrust and avoidance. She genuinely finds it impossible to look at Karen for longer than a little second. The conversation comes in fourth. Pay attention to the wording. They are formal, clipped, and completely lacking in substance. Karen, that little conversation hurts. Well, Amy, the weather is pleasant. It is, indeed. No follow-up questions are included. There isn't any inherent reciprocity in a real dialogue. Amy's sentences seem to have been forced out of her. There are deafening silences in between their lines. The weight of everything left unsaid is palpable. Two people aren't connected here. This scenario wasn't groundbreaking. It's just two individuals racing against the time until the director shouts, "Cut!" There was a breakdown. It was an illustration of a contract being upheld. Amy arrived. She took a seat. She delivered her lines. She did what she was supposed to do. However, her whole existence is shouting, "I am here against my will." You are unable to ignore it now that you are aware of the purported backstory. What does this mean for small people? Vast world. More significantly, what does this mean for Amy Roloff? Being compelled to do this while facing the possibility of legal action has probably left a scar that will never go away. Amy's confidence in the producing firm, TLC, might be permanently damaged. She no longer shares her story with anyone. She is a resource under control. This results in a number of terrifying prospects for the future. The silent quit is the first possibility. Amy could participate in what is referred to as silent quitting, even if she might not violate her contract again. She will arrive, but her contribution will be minimal. She will become less open in her confessions. It will feel more contrived in her scenes. She will essentially retire from the show till her contract ultimately expires by emotionally withdrawing from it. She will get paid, but she will keep her soul safe. If you begin to notice an even greater, this is probably the cause of Amy's subsequent episodes' reserve and detachment. The second possibility is the last season. Off-screen toxicity at this level cannot continue. Both the network and the producers are aware of it. It's likely that the network decided that the show's current run was enough to handle the entire mess. Under threat of legal action, forcing your stars to film together is a last-ditch effort rather than a long-term plan. TLC may determine that the next season will be the final one as a result of this. For the finale, they will attempt to create a joyful ending, but we will be aware of the somber truth that lies beneath the smiles. The third possibility is the Chris factor. Remember Chris Marek, Amy's husband. He guards Amy with ferocity. Throughout everything, he has been her pillar of support. How does it make him feel to watch his wife go through this emotional ordeal for a television program? Chris is most likely giving Amy advice. Is this truly worth the effort? Without all of this stress, our lives are fantastic. Chris's influence might be the last straw that allows Amy to make the decision to permanently leave. When the time is right, the contract will be damned. He provides her with a choice she didn't have previously. A contented, tranquil existence that is totally unrelated to Roloff Farms and the program. The tragic conclusion of reality television is what we have seen when you go behind the scenes. After being pressed for drama for so long, a genuine family with real trauma and sorrow has finally had enough. A woman named Amy Roloff. She purportedly attempted to draw a final barrier to preserve her personal serenity after sharing her life with us for 20 years, only to be forced back into line by a media giant who threatened to ruin her financially. There was no healing in the tense, uncomfortable situation that we all witnessed. It was a coercive moment. An example of how a contract might influence a person's welfare. It is no longer only about a family and their farm in Little People, Big World. It serves as a warning about celebrity, wealth, and the moment a reality show ceases recording life and begins to destroy it. The most important question is still, how much more can Amy handle?